Afternoon and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We do still have people who are getting connected. I always feel like when you run a Zoom webinar, it takes a minute for Zoom to warm up while you watch the counter come on and everybody goes up. It's kind of fun to watch. But we're excited to have everyone today. So ITS is going to take the opportunity with this Tech Town Hall to go over just some of our most recent endeavors, some projects that we're currently working on for the upcoming year. We're going to open it up in the Q&A for questions. So please, as we're going through, type your questions. Alex, who's present here with us today, will be moderating. She'll be working to answer questions. We'll also be taking notes throughout. So ultimately, if we need to come back and respond to any questions that we aren't able to address, we can follow up with users following the webinar as well. So with that, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get things kicked off and get us going. And I think up first, we have a little bit of an agenda here. So we're going to talk about what are we doing with communications and collaboration? How are we thinking about upcoming changes to learning spaces and kind of where are we going as we're coming out of the pandemic and we're really post-pandemic and thinking about what we can do with learning spaces. What have we learned? How are we changing? And what are some things that we're trying to take on? Where are we going with advising support? So I think that this has been an ongoing endeavor at UCR for a number of years, and we're excited to just kind of be sharing with you all how we're helping to support that effort and what that looks like. And then how are we making some foundational changes to identity and access management? So I think this has been a long time coming project, and we're very excited about some changes. Again, even though it's foundational work, I think it can bring about some big change and hopefully ease the burden on UCR and a lot of our everyday work with a lot of the systems that we engage in. So with that, I believe I'm going to hand it off to Mike, and we're going to kick things off with communications and collaboration. Mike.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Mike Kennedy. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for campus. So I want to talk to you about two different topics in this area, enterprise solutions for communication and collaboration. And the first one is the Slack Enterprise Grid. So really today, as many of you know, there isn't a one central communication tool for chat. We have many of our faculty and our students are using Slack today, actually already. We have our staff who are using Teams pretty heavily. And then there's some folks who are over on Zoom chat. But there really isn't one single tool for all of these groups to work together in a single place. And so today we're introducing that we are going to be bringing Slack Enterprise Grid to campus for use as a central communication tool. For those that don't know, Slack is very similar to other tools you may be used to, such as Teams. It's secure, it's very flexible, and inclusive, and it will grow over time as more folks join it. So next slide, please. Some of the features here, it's very secure. It meets many of the compliance and privacy requirements up to and including HIPAA even. I think the biggest feature of this is its seamless integration with so many systems that you may be using today. So for example, if you're using Google, there are integrations with Google. If you're using Office 365, there are integrations with Office 365. Many of you know that Canvas is starting to be used broadly across campus. There are integrations for Canvas into Slack as well. Additionally, there's personalization. So the way that Slack Enterprise Grid works is that you may have a community group for everyone who from the campus who joins and to collaborate and get notifications on raw instance. But individual departments, individual student groups, and other folks on campus can create their workspaces that are personalized to their use. And the user experience is very seamless, and you can go back and forth between these various different areas. So I think as we start to roll this out, you'll begin to see this as a very exciting new tool and offers a lot of capability for the campus. Next slide. So really our next step, we do want to start with a pilot with some faculty and some students. Again, I mentioned at the beginning that there are a number of folks on campus who are already using Slack. We begin to reach out to them to bring those folks into our new Slack Enterprise Grid, but we want to broaden this. Right now, we see over 3,000 workspaces today of people who set up individual Slack teams. We want to reach out to them and bring them into the grid as well. And then we're going to be working with the campus to configure a main workspace for rollout. We are looking for early adopters, and so if this is something you're interested in using in advance of a broader rollout to campus, please reach out to us or look for some communication further on in the quarter about this particular rollout. Okay.
Should they email you directly, Mike?
Great question. Sure, you can email me directly. That's fine. My email address for those that don't know is michael.kennedy@ucr.edu. I'm hoping I get a lot, so it's all right. Next solution I'm going to talk about is Zoom phones. So again, for those that don't know, we actually have 2 different phone systems on campus today. One is provided by Cisco, and another one is provided by NEC. The NEC phone system, this is the older one, is actually end of life. And really there is a need to move to something else. And so ITS several months ago began to look at a number of options. Obviously, you know that there's broad use of Zoom across campus today. And so Zoom Phone really offers really an add-on to what you're already familiar with and using Zoom, and it's really just another tab within that environment. And so to that end, ITS will be working from the campus to move away from our current phone system onto Zoom Phone. Now, again, for those that are familiar with Jabber and soft phone environments, you'll be very familiar with what Zoom Phone offers. You can chat within there, you can do SMS, you can answer phone calls within the Zoom client. Your phone number will work just as it did in the past, and just those calls will now go to the Zoom client. For those that do need a physical phone, we'll be working with you on campus to talk about what that transition will look like. Unfortunately, the current phone that you have today will not work with the new system, so we'll be moving to a different phone set or a different handset as we go for it. Again, further communication will be to campus on how we will be making those changes. So next slide, please. Again, some of the features, again, I mentioned this already, the familiarity with the Zoom client. Once we do this rollout, you already know how to use it. It's very secure, it's scalable. Additionally, for those, there are several groups on campus who are using a contact center today to answer calls to, for many of our folks in enrollment, for example, have several different contact centers. We're working with them to transition to a Zoom version of the contact center, which is very robust, offers all the same features that our current contact center does and much, much more. And so we're going to see a very much improved experience for not only the students who call into these various contact centers, but those that are taking the calls as well. And so next steps. Again, I mentioned we were already working with those who have contact centers today, talking with them, understanding their experience, and configuring the new contact centers to meet their needs. We're also going to begin to pilot at the end of this month with some departments on the new Zoom Phone rollout. And so we'll be reaching out to those departments. I believe we've already started to reach out to those departments on those that will be participating. And then we're going to be doing additional assessment to figure out the rollout approach and timeline. So again, more communication will be happening over time to campus about as we do this rollout.
Yeah, and Mike, we're working roughly over probably the next 12 to 18 months on the
Yes.
Zoom Phone rollout. Yeah, so
Exactly.
this is not an overnight deal. This is something that we'll be engaging methodically in, I would say, across the university. Are you also engaged with EH&S and emergency support services?
Yes, we are. Obviously, 911 is a key and important service that needs to continue to function properly. And so they're one of the first groups that we reached out with. And so that service will continue to work seamlessly so that safety is a number one priority as we move to this new phone system. Additionally, because Zoom Phone relies on the campus network heavily, working to shore up the campus network, add UPSs in various locations to ensure that the campus network stays up so that phone calls continue to work. I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Hutchins. I'm the Chief Experience Officer here at ITS. And so you're hearing a lot about Zoom and our new agreement with Zoom. So a lot of new services coming to campus. So today I'm going to focus in on one particular problem and how Zoom might help. So that is space on campus. So whether your organization or your group is hybrid or maybe looking at a new way to look at space, Zoom may be able to assist. Zoom Rooms is a software-based system that can provide an audio and wireless experience for anybody using the space. So to focus in on a couple features, so adaptive display. So for those of you that are on this call today, you're seeing that we're all in the same room, but we all have our own distinct space, and the sound is following whoever's speaking in the room. We also are introducing new flexible hardware standards on campus. So we have a couple folks that are using it so far, but this is plug and play appliances, universal docking stations, so you can walk into a space and begin doing what you need to do in that space. Next, interactive whiteboarding. So we have different hardware and different solutions that you can now, whether you're having a hybrid meeting, now leverage whiteboards. Next, wireless sharing. So this is a way that you can walk into a meeting and not need your laptop, or you can toggle between different presenters and sharing information very easily, rather than kind of having it take up time in your meetings or instruction. Next, room scheduling. So this is a way Zoom will allow folks that are sharing a space that you can not only see what's available in the space, but also schedule that room in advance. It is built to scale, so there is an admin dashboard, so you can see in real time, you can see reports on usage, meetings, and devices. Universal signage display, so you can see it as a, when you walk into the space, it can be used as a communication tool as well, displaying different updates and information to anybody who walks into the space. And then personalized hoteling spaces. So this is a way, again, trying to make it so that minimal amount of time when you walk into a shared space or hybrid space that you're not spending time hooking up technology. Now you can scan a QR code and immediately the room knows your configurations and personal preferences, so you can then sit down and do your work or your instruction. Okay. Next steps. So areas of focus for my team moving forward is to understand digital signage on campus and how the solution, how we can make it broadly available. It's very easy to use. I know some of the existing solutions we have on campus require a significant amount of time for staff to maintain. So that's something that we will be working on bringing to campus and making available. Room scheduling. So, in particular, in some of the spaces on campus, there's a demand for room scheduling. So we're going to be exploring that and making that available. And then this last one, I'm excited. Chaz, our partners in Chaz have volunteered to partner with us to understand their needs, features and functionalities that they'd like to see related to instruction. So we want to know how we can help bring this service into the classrooms. If you are interested please send an email to multimedia@ucr.edu. We'd love to do an in-person demo. We can come out to your space or we can do it over Zoom, whatever your preference is, if you're interested in learning more.
So Rebecca, on the room scheduling, so I know we have a couple of different scheduling systems that exist on campus today. Does Zoom work with those systems?
It does. So you can integrate with those systems, and I believe there's an effort on campus to really understand where the campus wants to go more broadly with those systems, but in the short term, they can integrate with current systems. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think I'm up next. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Terry Ekman. I'm the Executive Director for Student Information Systems. And as Matt mentioned earlier, we will be talking, oh, sorry, next slide. Yeah. So I get to give you the exciting update on this project. We're very excited for this. And it's been a long time coming for us. So we have struggled for a very long time with having multiple systems and communication channels that were cumbersome, challenging to use, and often made it difficult to make sure that the right message got to the right students at the right time. So with the implementation of this instance of Slate, we will now have the opportunity to solve that problem. Slate is a customer relationship management system. It is currently being used by undergraduate admissions and graduate admissions for their admissions processes. So with this new instance of Slate, we are going to be able to provide a solution for our advisors or those that provide any kind of advising service to students to make sure that they are engaging with the right students at the right time and telling them the right message. Go ahead to the next slide. So a couple of key features and benefits for our students include the ability to support and build more of a holistic, connected community that allows seamless transition across colleges. So this will help really to reduce complexity, especially when you have students who need to move between colleges or they're seeking a degree in more than one college. This will allow the advisors in both offices to see everything that's going on in one place with that student. Again, we'll also be able to support increased and better communication among advisors and students. For example, Slate will have the ability to use two-way text messaging, all managed and captured within that Slate platform. So that will really help with communication between advisors and students. Next slide. Thank you. Key benefit for advisors for Slate, Slate, is that they will advisors will be able to be more effectively manage their caseload and ensure that services are focused on the right students at the right time. They'll be able to set up email campaigns, manage events, run their own queries, and we're also going to be configuring an appointment system that will integrate with all of our calendar systems that will allow students and advisors to be able to schedule appointments, adjust appointments, and communicate with their students. So most importantly, I would say on this that I want to highlight here is that this solution really is agile and we'll be able to meet any emerging needs of the campus. Already we have interest in using this for graduate advising, for other types of advising and student services on campus, such as wellness and learning resources. So ultimately, our hope is that this solution will be a central communications hub where all communications and interactions with our enrolled students will be captured. And so we'll have that comprehensive picture, I guess, of the student experience and how we're supporting them. Next slide. All right, so next steps. We're ready to go. We are actively working on scheduling our kickoff in February. And we're going to be meeting with, have several meetings with key stakeholders or representatives of key stakeholders on campus to build out all the detailed rules and requirements that we need in order to configure the system. After that work is done, we'll be able to provide a more detailed implementation schedule, a deployment timeline that we will be able to share out with you all. A part of this also is we will be building out a comprehensive communication plan, which will include updates on our progress. We'll share information about what's going on as we get closer to rollout, to include training for end users and how to access and all of those things for both staff, faculty, and students who will be using this solution.
Can you talk a little bit about our partners in VPDUE and the CRM Advising Work Group?
Oh, yeah. So the CRM Advising Work Group, we have being headed up by our, oh my gosh, I'm going to get the title wrong, Associate Dean Bob Ream in VPDUE, where we have associate deans, we have lead advisors who will be a part of a core group that we'll be working with to make sure that we are capturing all of those, the needs of the advisors. We also have actually athletics representation on there because a key component of this is to help eliminate some of the challenges that we have right now with advising for our athletes. So.
Yeah, and this endeavor was heavily built, I think, on a lot of analysis that was done almost 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, with a lot of functional requirements and a lot of deep analysis and understanding. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's actually we've, as we kind of alluded to, we've done this kind of analysis a couple of times over the last decade. And so we had a really good set of requirements going into this to look at a couple of different vendors. And Slate really came out on top for us for many reasons, but mostly because of its flexibility. Okay, any questions? Q&A, please. Otherwise, I'll be happy to answer anything offline as well.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to be talking about the Identity and Access Management Project. My name is Dwight Kramer. I am the Chief Information Security Officer for UC Riverside. Thank you. So for most of the campus, the part of Identity and Access Management they notice is when they onboard and get their new identity, and for most staff and faculty, they're like, why am I not getting it quicker? And so we're looking to address that piece. For the students, they don't really notice any difference, and all of the staff, faculty, and students, their day-to-day usage, they don't really notice too much. But the identity and access management stack or technology stack is at end of life and has been for some time. It is very, very old. And so a few years ago, there was a project to review it. Last year to try to find an enterprise solution. And so what we're doing now is we're just about ready to implement the enterprise solution. And we're calling that the IAM Riverside project. Next slide, thank you. And so this will do several things. One of the core things it's going to do is help us improve the security. And actually, even before that, one of the things it's going to do is help us modernize our technology. And so right now we're running on a bunch of old legacy hardware. We're running on a bunch of old scripts. This is going to move us into an enterprise solution, which is going to help us automate the way lifecycle is managed, help us give the platform for a single view, especially as we continue to improve after this. And then probably the biggest piece is what we're going to do is decouple the identity of individuals on campus from the UC Path process. And so you'll get your identity through UC Riverside, and then we'll unify things on the back end with UC Path. What that's going to do is make account creation much quicker, much easier for people to do. Now, some of this, we're creating that ability, but it's not going to be fully implemented for a little while after we go live with this product. Next slide. Some of the other benefits it's going to have is real-time updates. Because this new technology is more integrated in our whole stack of technology. When things are updated, it's going to be much quicker. It allows for a much more efficient engagement. And one of the things, as I alluded to earlier, is it really allows us to move to more of an agile approach of dealing with identity management, both at the life cycle of an identity, but also as we start moving into our next phases, which will be like access management and engagement, updating our password management pieces of it. Next slide. And so as far as next steps, actually starting today, we started our full UAT with campus. We have a large group on campus helping us with this, as well as at UC Path and other groups. And so we'll be doing that for the next several weeks and then iterate and improve on that. In March, we're planning on going live. It might be a little earlier, might be mid-March, somewhere in that time period, we're planning on going live. For most of the campus, they're not going to really notice a big difference. Only those that deal with onboarding and managing people's identities when they start or leave the campus will there be a big difference. We're right now working with our campus partners to ensure that our step-by-step guides are good and improving those. And then this will give us the platform, as I stated earlier, to continuously improve. So this project is actually a huge waterfall project. We're doing everything kind of at once, dumping it down, replacing all of the old hardware with this new enterprise. And then we're going to move into more of an agile sprint approach where we're just continuously making updates and improvements. Next slide. If you have any questions, you can ask during the Q&A. If you want to reach out to us, we have a email address. It's ITSIM, and you can reach out to us there, and we can answer questions as well.
Wonderful, thank you all. So that actually concludes our I'll call them brief presentations on some pretty big topics, I think, that are headed your way. And so at this point, we're gonna really open it up for questions across the group. We can jump back to any of the topics where you might have additional information or detail that you're looking for today. And we'll go around the room and work to address as many questions as we can, or you can engage us in a conversation. And we can try to sort of figure out what we might need to do, or what haven't we thought about that you're thinking about that's imperative to success here at UC Riverside. So with that, please put your questions in, and then I'm going to turn it over to Alex to start asking questions.
Yeah, and we do already have quite a few questions in the Q&A section, so thank you folks for posting your questions there. Two folks actually asked a very similar question, so I'm paraphrasing here. What does the Slack implementation mean for teams who are currently using Microsoft Teams and SharePoint for file storage and sharing?
It's a great question. As of today, there are no plans to turn off Microsoft Teams. If you're using that, you can continue to do that. Really, our strategy is to provide, if you're using Teams today, you will find that many of the same functionality, much of the same functionality will be available in Slack in terms of integrations with Office 365. But really, our strategy is to provide a great experience, an excellent experience with integrations with Canvas, other systems that Teams does not integrate with within Slack, so that you will find a lot of value in moving to the Slack platform.
And not all users have licenses in Microsoft Teams today, is that correct?
That's correct, absolutely.
Yeah, so everyone will exist in Slack, right? And so I think that's part of the driving force as well. So if you are building those teams, or you're doing that work today and you wonder, why can't I add this user, or why can't I find this user? It's because they don't have a license in that platform. And that's a significant gap in our unified communication strategy. And so that's why we wanted to do Slack. We also didn't want to force a change from the platforms that you're leveraging today, which is, again, why we wanted to emphasize the integration that Mike spoke to.
Okay. So next question is, if we are moving to Zoom for a phone system, why are we moving away from Zoom in terms of chats IM in regard to Slack implementation?
Great question. So today, if you look at all the chat tools that are out there, Microsoft Teams, Slack, even Google Chat, Zoom is really, their chat product is not really at the same level. There aren't the same integrations with Canvas. There aren't the same integrations with services that you use every day, like Google Workspace and Office 365. And so that's really the main driver. Because of the rich integrations that Slack does provide over something like Zoom Chat, it just makes a lot more sense for the campus to move to something like Slack.
So I'm not sure if we can answer this. It does seem to be a feature question, but someone asked, will room scheduling be an option for Zoom spaces in the Outlook pull down for meetings?
It will be available in the Outlook. I think that's something we have to explore, and that's why it's on the next steps, is we don't want to assume anything about our users' environment, but we want to work with the users to understand what are they using today and how can we enhance their current experience. So can't at that level, but if they would like to send me an email, would love to continue the conversation and look at what they're currently using for scheduling.
Thanks so much. And then we had another question around the student advising CRM. Can you just sort of clarify in terms of the future options around the CRM when we mentioned graduate students? Will graduate advisors have access from the beginning?
So yeah, well, I mean, we have to decide who's going to have access and what level of access there will be, but there's definitely an opportunity for graduate advisors to use the system. We will be integrating all enrolled students, graduate and undergraduate, into that system. So their data will be there, and then we can use it in any way that we determine that makes the most sense. So as far as integration goes and availability of data, our plan is to put all enrolled students into this new instance of Slate.
Thanks. Another question asking about Zoom Room technology. It seems Zoom Room technology requires specific equipment to support both in-person and remote meeting attendees. How do we obtain this equipment for department-owned spaces?
So Zoom Rooms is hardware agnostic. That's one of the benefits of it, is that we can look at the hardware that that someone's using today. Now we have expanded our hardware standards to include 3 different vendors that we have tested. We have models that you can come and see and touch and see the user experience. So the choice is going to stay with the organizations and colleges out there as to what kind of experience do they want. And then based on the experience they want, we have different options with our ITS standards, or can even potentially work within their existing hardware if that's their preference.
And Zoom rooms do require a license, but we have licenses available.
So yes, right now ITS is absorbing the cost of licenses and making it available to campus.
And that's part of our enterprise agreement with Zoom, which is essentially a 7-year contract. And so, so if you need or would like a Zoom room, work with Rebecca and her team. I believe it was multimedia at ucr.edu, and they can help get you set up and they will get you licensed. Additionally, if you have hardware that functions or would work with Zoom rooms today, then we can configure a Zoom room and turn you on. So, which is fairly straightforward as well.
Absolutely, and I think one of the benefits that we've seen in the past for those that are familiar with Rise rooms is those came at a pretty significant price point. So to equip a classroom of a Rise room standard was pretty expensive, and not everyone could afford that. So the price point of the hardware currently starts at a couple $100s. Now there are other units that are a couple $1,000s, but we've got that range to kind of fit within the budget and the experience that users are looking for.
And how are we looking at using Zoom rooms with Rise rooms?
That's part of the CHAS pilot, is that we want to understand and hear feedback from faculty today that are using the Rise rooms and hear what haven't we thought of, what's working, what's not, and understand how they're using them today so that we can communicate better and enhance the configuration or the features around Zoom rooms to meet faculty needs.
So we have another question that I believe is referencing the Slate CRM. In terms of the communication benefits that were described, is there a component for communication sent to students out of Banner?
So we will integrate Banner data with Slate, and from Slate you can send communications. If you're talking about automatic emails that kind of happen as a result of a process in Banner, we need to explore that a little bit to see if those will be captured in there, or we just make the switch to, instead of sending those through Banner, we send them through Slate, so that way we have that comprehensive picture. So that's still some analysis needs to be done on that.
And then we have some interest in what we're using today to conduct this town hall. So what equipment, cameras, monitors, presentation system are we using for this town hall?
So this room, we are using the Neatbar Pro. So I would say this is probably our mid-range. So it has both sound and a camera. And you can see the adaptive experience here. And I would say that, so this is pretty easy. I wish I had Sadiq and his team here, but it's pretty easy to have one of these installed. You can email the multimedia team. They can connect you with quotes, and then they can even coordinate install if that's what you'd like to do.
And these devices also support multi-screen. The Neatbar Pro, I believe, supports multi-screen display, so you can do content and presenters at the same time if you have multiple displays. I think this one does up to 3.
Up to 3.
Yeah, so you can do 3 full monitors, so you can get content, whoever is live speaking, and then also your Brady Bunch view of the room, all across 3 monitors. So you may have seen in the slides, actually, Alex, if you go back to the picture, there's a 3-screen setup in the slides. There you go.
Yep.
Oh, there.
Yeah, so right there you can see an example of a 3-screen setup. This is actually with a Polycom Eagle Eye. You can also see the display pad unit on the desk. That is actually a Zoom Room integrated interface, and so the room has meeting awareness, and so it is sort of its own person within the room, which is also why you may see on our names that actually it says the room. It doesn't say our name. That's because we're signed in as the room, not as an individual. And so again, it just helps with adding presence and allowing you to not have to use your endpoint device to facilitate a meeting, which can be very challenging if you're trying to manage, personal messages or email, or you're trying to figure out how to close everything out, et cetera. So, so a lot of benefits there.
A lot of benefits and I think a lot of flexibility. So you can see there, you've got the unique control pad is what we're using here in this space, but some folks love their iPad, they love their device, and that's kind of how they're connected to the world. You can also leverage your own iPad to control the room. So again, that flexibility is there depending on where you're comfortable and what you want to accomplish. And again, we have our multimedia team that can provide recommendations and meet with you one-on-one.
And Dwight, it looks like we have an attendee asking for some clarification around identity access. Can you help us understand what's meant by identity access? Does this mean we're replacing CAS?
Yeah, so as far as replacing CAS, no, it doesn't mean we're replacing CAS. We will be looking at CAS and other background technologies as we move forward. Again, the day-to-day logging in, most people won't notice a difference. It's really when you're onboarding, for those that have ever had to do an affiliate form, that form is changing to a different form. And so what is really happening is on the back end, we're removing a bunch of legacy hardware and legacy scripts and replacing it with an enterprise solution. And so those that will notice it, again, are those that are doing the onboarding, bringing new faculty, staff on board, and having to get them put into UCPath and get an ID and things of that nature. The day-to-day average user won't notice any difference right now.
Next question, will all of these great new services be available to all schools on campus, for example, the School of Medicine?
Yes, is the short answer. So there's no service that was presented here today that is not, fully aligned and or vetted either with, trying to think, the only one that I don't know is if there's a BAA on Slate, but otherwise I believe that there is a BAA on every other service that we have, and they are all fully HIPAA aligned services. And so, yes, they are available for use by the School of Medicine. I'll double check on Slate and we'll get back to you. But otherwise, they're in a place and a position from a security perspective that they can be used enterprise-wide today, and we are deploying them as such.
We have a question around accessibility. Someone said accessible access to these systems from a student perspective. How do these platforms interact with assistive technology such as screen readers, text-to-speech? Is navigating these platforms possible with just a keyboard without the use of a mouse or pointing device?
So I can address Zoom and Slack specifically. Both are compliant to accessibility standards that are well known out there. Slack in particular has configuration built into the app for configuring things like screen readers. And so really for both, especially Slack, accessibility is really a first-class passenger in terms of how these work. And so I think you will find it will be very useful and helpful for those that are using it in that way.
For Slate, I don't know if that included Slate, but I'll just say it is compliant with ADA requirements and the web content accessibility guidelines. So you can use, you can navigate with keyboard and all of that.
Yeah, so I believe all of these solutions are at least WCAG 2, if not 2.1 compliant. So we've got full alignment there. I know we continue to see what I would call advanced accessibility features from Zoom as well. So you're continuing to see enhancements in their closed captioning and then their text conversion as well to additional languages. So I think a lot of these corporations are really coming at this from a universal design perspective and being inclusive of all. But also understanding where they have bespoke answers to, unique accessibility accommodations that are required by individuals.
Okay, we have a question. If we move to Slack, what happens to our files in SharePoint?
Nothing. Yeah, files are staying the same. You will just have a new way of accessing it, an additional way of accessing it.
If my team is using Zoom chat now, but I'm interested in Slack, can I start an instance now, or should I wait for this larger rollout?
Reach out to us today. I mentioned my email address earlier. You can also put in a ServiceNow request. There is a form for doing that. Please feel free to fill that out and we'll chat. Again, I think there may be opportunities for you to pilot earlier than others, but I'm curious about your use case. So let's chat.
So this next, it's not stated as a question, but I guess I can ask it as a question. Will staff graduate advisors have the same access as undergraduate advisors to sites?
I mean, that's probably probably too complex to answer on here. I need a little bit more information about what they mean by access. So if they want to reach out to me after and maybe we can have a conversation, I can help understand that use case.
Will Zoom rooms have capabilities for the hybrid live and live stream events such as classes and performances that dance and other performing arts need?
So I will say it's capable of meeting some of those needs, but I would want to understand more about what they're looking to accomplish. As I'm not familiar with kind of what those might look like, but off the top of my head, I feel like there's robust functionality and features there that we would love to meet with the folks that are hosting those events, understand so that we can answer that question better in detail.
Yeah, there are two features. So webinar, which is what you're seeing here today. There's also an event functionality within Zoom, and we do have some licenses for events. And so definitely get with Rebecca. So it's one of those areas we're not as deep in yet, but definitely very interested in understanding what you would need and then how we might support that.
So a question here, could a team of 3 to 4 made up of advisors and students be eligible for Slack Enterprise?
Yes.
I think they may be asking about this particular initial rollout. So would you be open to?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like I said before, please reach out to me directly or put a ServiceNow request in. Let's chat. Let me understand the use case, and I think we may be able to fit you in earlier than later.
Yeah, I think something that's important to understand about Slack is that there's a larger community that's available for all as we start to roll it out to everyone. But then understanding where you have unique community of whatever size, and and then how do we get that community added in, and what's the right answer? So there are probably 2 different pathways. This is where I always forget the semantics in Slack. And maybe you remember the names of the 2 different.
The team versus the channel.
Yeah, the team versus the channel.
Yeah, and we're in talks right now to provide guidance on when to choose. So the Slack environment works, if you're familiar with Teams, similar, where you kind of have individual channels that are focused, and this is just one group of everyone chatting together. But there may be opportunities or different experience where you need kind of your own separate environment, where you need more configuration and more flexibility in how things work. It really depends on your need. We're going to be working on a best practices guideline to help everyone kind of choose the path. But in the short term, reach out to us, let's chat, and we can help you figure out the best path.
What if I choose wrong? Can I fix it? Can we do it different?
Absolutely.
Can I have another one?
Yeah, very easy, very flexible. So the best thing is let's just get you in there and start using it. And then if it doesn't work out, we can always pivot later.
Okay, I think for time's sake, we have one more question that we can pose. What steps have we taken to ensure best practices for the campus-wide rollout of Slate? There's some concerns over how data and functions are going to be used to enhance communications, being overused, underused, using.
Yeah, so that's all part of kind of a governance conversation that still we need to continue to have. But really we are, partnering with our CRM and task force to talk about those kinds of things and make sure that we are aligning I know there's some concern about too much email, right? And so making sure that we're not inundating students. And I think something like Slack actually allows us greater visibility into that. So we can actually see when that starts to happen. So I don't know if I answered all parts of that question, but that's what I would say.
And that actually is a great segue because this session has been recorded. There will be a copy of the recording posted to our website at its.ucr.edu under our projects page. So you can find the recording of this Tech Town Hall. We will also be putting together a frequently asked questions document with questions that were answered here today as well as additional questions that continue to come in from the campus community. So if you do continue to have questions, please send them our way. Again, more information can be found at our website.
Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time, and have a wonderful day. Thanks, everyone.